Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today's video is absolutely loaded. We're talking about the new scenario sign-up 2.0 system, my personal experience transferring servers, including some really frustrating bugs, and my honest thoughts on the way of the winter scenario. Then we're going to dive into all of the buffs, nerfs, and reworks on weapons, armor, mods, and Cradle adjustments that are coming in December. So there's a lot to cover here, and while some changes are definitely exciting, others, well, not so much. So stick around to the end because I'm going to break down which builds got the biggest buffs, which ones got nerfed the hardest, and where I think the meta is heading after all these changes. So let's start with the new scenario sign-up 2.0 system. This is a great addition that lets you create groups to transfer to the same servers with your friends or your hive. It guarantees everyone makes it to the new server before it locks, which is a huge improvement. That said, it still has some bugs. So I also ran into major issues during my transfer. I packed up some drills, some axes, even some animals for breeding, but none of it ended up transferring over to the new server. It turns out that nothing in my backpack made the trip. So if you're transferring soon, make sure to put everything in your storage or you might lose it. I was lucky enough to have an old drill from a previous season, but it only had about 200 durability, so not ideal, but it was better than breaking rocks with a flint pickaxe. So as you know, you can't bring over anything that is mimetic, so I had like solar drills and stuff like that, so that I ended up switching out, creating like the advanced drills. And if this is your first time transferring, or even if you've transferred in the past, one of the biggest things that you want to make sure that you bring with you are going to be some advanced drills, a pickaxe, or maybe a chainsaw, so that you can get up and running. It will save you so much time. It is absolutely miserable not coming over with one. I noticed the mistake that it wasn't coming over everything that was in my bag. So I let my buddies know before they transferred. They moved their stuff over to their storage, and when they got over, they had no issues. So make sure that you definitely do that. With all the bugs, the lack of content, and the performance issues in the way of the winter, my clan did decide to head back to Hardmode Manibus. And don't get me wrong, Way of the Winter has a lot of potential, but it needs way more work to feel like a completed scenario. And devs, if you're watching, and I know you are, please remove the time gating on hard mode servers. My clan and I have done this scenario multiple times. I'm personally on my 5th scenario, and there's no reason to hold us back anymore. The rewards even cap at 4 seasons, so what's the point? We cleared all the week 1 content in the first day, and now we're stuck waiting for phase 2. This kind of forced waiting doesn't add engagement, it just burns players out. Let us move at our own pace, and I promise the game is going to feel so much better. I think that it would be so awesome if I could just drop down and see how fast I can go from like start to clearing like Leia Labs. Like, that would be awesome. Sure, you can time gate the Prime Wars a little bit. I'd probably still cut it down, but like all the regular content, the pro modes, the unlocking of the Blackfell area and stuff like that, there's literally no reason to keep doing it. Maybe for the novice servers, but once you get into like normal and especially hard mode, please get rid of all that time gating. We don't need it. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Should we get rid of time gating on these servers that we know that we're past season 1? Because I think that would be very, very big. So now let's talk about some of the pleasant surprises after transferring. First, they reduced the cost to transfer items, especially deviations. The cost dropped from 800 to 400 each, which is a huge improvement. So farming deviations now feels worth it, especially if you're going for those shinies, because you can actually bring a decent amount with you. Another quality of life change, they added a grid system for placing ceiling items. So if you've ever struggled to line up lights or grow lights, you'll know how frustrating this used to be. Now it's super easy, and small changes like that make a big difference for builders. So I'm really excited, and I hope they keep adding and adding to the building system. So where did your clan end up after Way of the Winter? Did you stick around, or did you head back to Manibus like we did? Let me know in the comments. I ran a poll recently, and it seems like most players are heading back to Manibus. Honestly, I can't blame them. Between Prismverse and the Way of the Winter, both scenarios felt unfinished and buggy. Like, For at least Way the Winner, the first week was amazing. Everything was like really cool. There was a lot to do, but then by the time you were in week 2, and the scenario phases were like way too long. They need to cut the phases down in every single one. But anyway, yeah, so the phases were like way too long and there was nothing to do by week 2, so we were all ready to go. I really think the devs should be focusing on adding content to existing scenarios rather than releasing incomplete ones. So imagine if they combined Way the Winner with Manibus, and you can even add Evolution's Call. So you take those areas where instead of Prime Wars, there's regular wars. Well, you can keep that, but maybe have just the wars instanced where people bid on it and then they do the wars. It's still the same, you know, or maybe the Prime Wars could be instanced. We could figure it out. But either way, I think that would be awesome. We want to basically add more and stop moving on to something and giving us a half-baked product. So what do you guys think? Should they be focused on adding more content to the existing ones, or do you like seeing new scenarios? Because I personally think that the scenarios they have are pretty good now. They just need to keep adding to it. So all right, now let's dive into the buffs, the nerfs, and the reworks, and I'm going to go through every weapon, armor piece, mod, and Cradle adjustments, but we're going to start with the weapons. This is a huge list. They gave us a ton of info on it. I've broke it down to make it easy for you. I'm also going to identify whether I think it's neutral, whether I think it's a nerf, whether I think it's a buff, and then at the end I'm going to tell you what I think the biggest winners are and the biggest losers. I'll also leave a link in the description if you want to go check out the detailed patch notes, but this is all going to be coming, I think, December 19th. So in just a few weeks. So if you have any issues with this, please get out and talk on the forums now, because there is time maybe for them to make changes. So let's go through. Memento's getting a nerf. They increased the fast gunner trigger chance to 45%, but the attack bonus was reduced to 60% and the resource consumption was increased. Raining Cash got nerfed. Incremental stacking mechanic limits the peak DPS and it adds a stack delay. Inferno starter was neutral. The blaze damage got increased to 95%, but the bonus scaling on stacks was reduced. The Kumawink was a buff. The AoE bounce makes it great for crowd control, but slightly weaker in single target DPS. The Little Jaws got a buff. Unstable Bomber's now going to trigger every hit with a 0.9 second cooldown, making it extremely consistent. The Abyss Glance got a buff. Frost Vortex activation was reduced to 15 hits from 20. Silent Egress got a buff. They improved the Frost Vortex chance and Ice Crystal AoE to make it a top pick for Frost builds. The Boom Boom got nerfed. The Explosion cooldown kills its chain reaction potential. There was a cooldown added to the explosions. The Last Veiler got a buff. The counter no longer resets after triggering shrapnel, improving the uptime. Conflicting Memories got a buff. They increased the damage scaling for magazine builds, plus 10% per 15 bullets. Dusty got nerfed. Lower shrapnel chance went from 55% down to 30%, which reduces its versatility. The Hammerhead got nerfed. The AoE shock damage got reduced from 100% to 60%, focusing on single target instead. The Div Evo was neutral. They simplified the shrapnel mechanics with the shorter guaranteed trigger window of 4 seconds. Armor adjustments, the Covert Walker shirt Stealth Walker wrap was neutral. They slightly expanded the Frost Vortex range by 1.5 times, but weaker control effects reduced the crowd management. The Snow Camo Gloves got buffed. They increased the frost damage plus 50% PSI intensity. The Gas Mask got a buff. Shrapnel damage was increased to 150%. The Desert Dust Mask got a buff. Fast Gunner reload chance was increased from 50% to 65%, with reloading bullets gaining 20% attack. The Prickly Dance Pants got a buff. Bounce can now auto-reload bullets on its hits while assisting allies. The Hot Dog Shorts got a buff. The Bounce now targets +2 enemies, doubling the AoE potential. The Bastille set got a nerf. They lost the 40% weapon damage in the Bastille set, significantly reducing the DPS. The survivability buffs can't fully compensate for. Mod adjustments: Boomerang Bullet, formerly known as Not Throw Away Your Shot, got buffed, stacking trigger chance plus 2% per hit, improves single target reliability. Break Bounce got nerfed, damage bonus was halved from 25% versus 50%. Shrapnel Smash got a buff, faster stacking crit bonuses, make it a top pick for shrapnel builds. Bounce Rampage got nerfed. The max damage bonus was reduced from 50% to 25%. The Delayed Blast got buffed, so there'll be faster activation, which improves its practicality. And then Cradle adjustments, which we talked about, the Bounce Rampage got nerfed. They halved the bonus damage for bounce builds, limiting the potential in both AoE and single target scenarios. So that's the breakdown. Let me know in the comments how these changes impact your build and whether your favorite setup got buffed or nerfed. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Once Human content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.